It is absolutely gorgeous, perfect weather, but we have some stowaways who are making life not comfortable.
Another one.
Flies everywhere, and Alana is on the warpath.
Challenge accepted.
Luckily, we still have plenty of food, so Alana's not collecting them all to add to our rice bowls. Alright, pretty hard to tell that it's a Wednesday afternoon in April, because one of the spots that we like to come to for water sports looks like packed midsummer. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little rad type fishing boats, a couple sailboats, and then like a bigger cruiser. So we'll see what's going on. Time for a little sunscreen, see if we can find a little bit of wave. We're out there. See if we can reduce the line up. And everybody sees the shark. So a couple of the boats are pulling out right now, so I think it's a good window to try to get on there, get some waves. There's a huge current right now, so I gotta save some energy for the swim back, but it should shoot me right into the lineup. Yeah, let's go surf.
Hi gang, so you've all just watched John paddle out. And there's a lot of strong current right now, so I think what I'm gonna do is knot a couple of bowlines together just so that if it's too strong a current for him to paddle back in, I can just hop off the back with a line in hand, leave it attached to one of the cleats on the boat, and maybe take the paddleboard and just swim it over to him. Because I'm doing my sailing ASA 101 and I have to practice anyway, so this is a fun practice moment for me and a safety feature that I can add to the boat while I'm sitting here by myself, and I think that that's maybe something people would be interested in seeing. So here we go. Through the hole, around the tree, back through the hole. Like that. It's too bad you can't really see him, but I'm sure he's having a lot of fun.
Alright, so that concludes our little surf session out here at Santa Cruz. There's actually some pretty fun waves. A lot of surfers too, but Cosmello, nice group of guys and girls. It's really interesting because in California right now, all the beaches are closed and it's actually illegal to surf at a few spots. So it kind of makes sense that even though the waves were fun, but they weren't especially great, that there's actually kind of a lot of people out here. I think anyone who surfs and who has a boat is probably going to one of the only spots where it's legal to do that. Where you're not getting a $1,000 ticket. So we'll see as we push up around the island, get into more remote areas. I'm really curious to see if the island is really busy midweek, like high peak summer months, because nobody has any jobs, or if we'll be able to get some time to ourselves out here like we usually do at this time of year. So we're gonna pick up the hook, head out to find another anchorage, maybe go sit on the beach, make some lunch. But pretty awesome start to the day so far. say one of my absolute favorite things in the world is a hot cockpit shower. It's luxury. All right, we are motoring away from this surf spot, and I always check to make sure I'm getting my raw water going through the engine, because twice I've gotten it super clogged here just pulling out my anchor. So I'm very diligent about checking that and always listening to the sound of my engines, especially that water system. A little lunchtime as we are cruising on up the island. Okay, we are actually leaving Coches Prietos right now. I should have filmed it, but there's 4 boats in there, and you can easily fit like 15 or more boats in there. But what you have to do is bow and stern anchor. So there's one sailboat, the big Beneteau on the right. They are anchored correctly, and what I think is the proper etiquette for anchoring at the Channel Islands, especially at these popular anchorages, is you gotta use a stern anchor and lock your boat into one spot and allow other people to come in. I think people just don't really know what they're doing maybe as much. They just have one small Danforth anchor, usually on rope, and they spin around and roam all over the anchorage and kind of take up all the room, and I generally consider them a hazard. So we are going to tuck over next door. Just around the corner is Albert's, which is actually one of my favorite anchorages. There's one sailboat in there at the moment, which I just kind of intrinsically trust a little more. The problem with this anchorage spot, although it gives you tremendous protection from the wind because of this huge tall cliff, what it also does is turn the lights out really early. So the sun goes down really early on this side. You're kind of in the dark, kind of closed in, but it's just a short dinghy ride over to the nice beach at Coches, and we'll take solitude and a little extra space every day of the week. What do you think, babe?
Yeah, I think Albert's. And here we have John doing his absolute favorite task, getting the stern anchor out of the lazarette.
Lifting 40 feet of chain out of the lazarette sucks. I think one of the reasons so many people don't use their stern anchor is because honestly they're just kind of a pain to set. There's many different techniques to get them down, but what I like to do is use the dinghy. So the first step is lowering that in the water. You can see here, even though we're in completely flat water, we still managed to bang the dinghy against the side of the hull, and that's just one more plus in the book for soft bottom dinghies, I think. I use a 6 horsepower outboard, and it's about the heaviest that I'd like to kind of muscle around. I break the movements down into a couple different steps, and it's actually pretty easy for me to get the outboard on the transom. And yes, it'd probably be a pretty good idea to run a safety line to the engine so it doesn't end up on the bottom. In my experience, fresh gas is critical in getting an outboard to run correctly, especially if you haven't used it in a while. It's been, I don't know, it must be a couple months since we started up the old Yammer Hammer, but luckily that worked. I thought I was going to maybe have to get out carb cleaner, starting fluid or something, just because gasoline is so bad. Now it's time to set the stern anchor, and we're going to have to use the tender as a little tug. Of course, Florian is set basically 180 degrees how I want her, how I wanted to put the stern hook down. But now I'm just going to, what I do, show you how I do this, is I flake out chain and lay it over my tubes. and then get all the line flaked out, and I'll give Alana the bitter end. So now we got all the chain neatly flaked out on the side of the dinghy. The bitter end, Alana is cleating off. And now we'll just back this up to where we want it and throw the anchor over. The chain will just come right off the bow. Easy peasy. Once you start to get a good distance away from your boat, you can use the dinghy and the outboard to kind of spin your boat around by pulling on the road. This isn't going to work in high winds, obviously, and in that case you're just going to have to set the anchor and haul in on the line to get your boat to line up. But the problem with that is you're just going to end up shortening your scope, so the more in position you have the boat, the better off you're going to be. Okay, now we're at the part where the chain's going. And we'll tighten that in, and that'll be great. And look at this sailboat, doing it right. Nice little bow line, stern anchor. Sailboats just know how to anchor. So even though we are a little bit close to these rocks, I think we're fine. And it always, once we get in the dinghy and zoom around, we'll see how much room we actually have. Everything just feels so much closer to you when you're on the boat. So we're gonna go take the dinghy out, try to find the sun at Coches, and run some fresh gas through that motor. Wow, it is just so pretty on this side, especially as you're headed to sunset. Might have to go get Alana. Sitting here in the middle of Coches, looks like that one kind of Bayliner Sea Ray boat actually left, so we could have squeezed in nicely with this awesome Beneteau 55. So maybe we'll come over here tomorrow, get ashore, sit on the beach, do some hiking. Although I'd probably like to just go back and surf, because that was really fun today. But maybe we'll get to do both. Right now I'm just gonna sit and enjoy Captain's Hour and have a nice beer in the sun. Okay, here is kind of a perfect example of what I was talking about on the boat, which is just the way your perception of distance when you're anchoring like next to rock cliffs or something can be pretty warped. When we just set the anchor, even though I've anchored here in Alberts many times, I still feel like I'm always a little too close to the wall. And from this perspective, I think you can see how far away we are, like probably 5 boat lengths away. But it feels like you're right on top of it when you're on there. Florian Cliffs. Just a little more perspective on how close we actually are. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a rock coming up with 2 feet underwater right in front of the bow of the dinghy. So there are definitely some ouchy bits over here, but we are well in the clear over there, I think. So it's evening time. We're just watching the sunset, which is actually happening right on the other side of the rock here. But really pretty light looking this way. Maybe we'll show you a shot of that. Alana has made a delicious cocktail of,
grown-up Mexican hot chocolate.
Yeah, so we did a little remix, two of our favorite things, Mexican hot chocolate, and of course some Pusser's rum. This is the gunpowder proof rum, so it's like twice as strong. That's from my sister Jillian. That was a christening present for Valerian, and we're still working our way through it because it is gnarly. But we are chilling here in Albert's. There's one sailboat here, and it looks like another couple on Catalina. I think we're surfing with us a couple miles away from here earlier. Maybe we'll see them in the morning. A few boats that we chatted with over in Coches. People talking about being out at Quarantine Island. Everybody seems in good spirits though. It's psyched to be out here. It's still very friendly. All the surfers are really friendly, even though it's pretty crowded for the amount of waves that were coming through. But I think people are just excited to not be A, in a hospital bed, or B, stuck in the city or stuck somewhere. If you have to quarantine, being out here in nature is definitely the way to do it.
Today's like day 2, and this is when I start to come out of the bonin fog, so I get seasick, and either I'm seasick and really having a bad time and I'm not a useful or helpful, person to have on the boat, or I take so much of this medicine to stop me getting seasick that it makes me fall asleep, and I'm just asleep for the first day and a half of a journey. But now that we're finally sort of getting over that hump, I'm feeling like I'll be able to be more helpful. And I did practice some of my knot tying skills.
It is absolutely gorgeous here. I'm going to flip this camera around and see if you can get some of this light. There's our one neighbor sailboat. And anytime you're at an anchor with or in an anchorage with one other boat, it's pretty epic. And can't beat this. Backside of Santa Cruz, Albert's, middle of quarantine, one other sailboat, and the weather conditions are really, really nice. Cheers. We're gonna spin right into this rock, so we're stuck this way, and our boat is completely backwards. And this slamming is so loud and so unbearable. It actually kind of feels like the whole boat is gonna shake itself apart. Yeah, if you'd ever want to know what it's like to sleep inside a kick drum, that's pretty much what it's like.